one can only hope that this is the final segment. So last time we learned
that if we showed the evidence, we lost the case.
Yeah, if you are an honest lawyer, you will be penalized. Well, someone will be penalized.
What? Stop talking!
Bigger when they thought a detective got murdered in the police department. He waived his right to testify.
He's not allowed! This whole courtroom's out of order! Do you give it to them?
So the difference is that, like, now he's already confessed to
tampering with evidence. And
so
blackmail.
Otherwise, if he presented it first, he just didn't say anything.
I guess.
We were following evidence protocol. Maybe. What is this? Why do we have strikes now?
Okay, you show the wrong evidence? Do you think you're not supposed to show the claw?
No, I think we are. Here's my audio. Yes. Go ahead and tap it. I also just like don't understand this whole thing about there being a handprint in the cloth.
Leather. Yeah. Edgeworth says that you'd have to hit him so hard.
Bruce Goodman. Mia Fey. Because you're constantly flying off the handle. You're dangerous. I don't think that the handprint really proves that she did anything. That's why I'm frustrated that she just like got put away when we presented it the first time.
Yeah. Here. Have it. Where is the contradiction?
No.
I wanted to see if there was something wrong with it in the previous picture.
I was like, no, don't present him that photo.
But there's not blood on it. Right?
I mean, probably.
It's been cut out before.
Or it's like some like weird thing, like it's upside down, or I don't know, man. Like it's a.
I think it's that it was cut out before the blood. Check. Rotate.
I think
Look
it's
on the
silly
back.
that we even have to. It's like not our job to even.
Check. Rotate. Rotate.
Gotta spray it down.
I almost say present. I think it's this.
My badge. She shoved him so hard that it left a fingerprint in his jacket.
Yeah. Her tiny little 14-year-old girl arms just hit him. It is nonsense. You're right, Chief Gant.
Like, my line of reasoning was that he, when she was passed out, he, like, took her hand.
And, like, put it on it, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Or even if it were, like, a bloody handprint.
Mm-hmm. Anything I would have accepted, but yes.
Not, like, a full imprint
pushing him so hard
on a jacket.
that her hand is still in it 2 years later.
Jake Marshall would probably tell us something about Texan vests or something.
We should have called on him to be an expert witness.
Here he goes. He's gonna blow.
No! His power was over 9,000.
Now he's all sweaty.
That's not what the book says about the laws of evidence. I hope we get to present the 2 rules of evidence.
But then he testified and made it relevant.
Objection! No, I did not. Because it wasn't relevant to the case at that time.
I mean, I think it has to do with like the second rule of introducing evidence.
It does.
I don't.
That's what I was saying, that we're going to have to present the rules. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case and trial.
It's number 1.
No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Yeah. So I did not.
Probably get yourself thrown in jail to do this whole thing over again.
Probably.
If so, sorry about that. Is that the only issue? We still haven't, like, actually talked about who murdered Bruce Goodman.
That's true.
I read both of these laws.
Yeah, it's a whole book, but there's only 2 rules. It's got a lot of pictures in it. A lot of examples. It's a coloring book. Although, if you had presented it when first prompted, it was relevant enough to put someone in prison. Yeah. That photo also was introduced without the approval of the police department.
That's true.
Is he just gonna explode?
I think so. Yep, there he went.
So I took him out. You're not my friend. In Phoenix Wright 2. The only one in this courtroom who hasn't been accused of a murder is the judge.
In Phoenix Wright 2.
A whole 4 days. Confetti. Yeah. Right. Hold it.
She didn't thank me.
Emma's wearing a big ribbon. You ever notice that?
It's true.
The bow.
We're in the defendant lobby. She's here all the time.
One day they'll get their hands on that Pikachu.
I hope so. You mean with her glasses on? There you go. Finn. It's too late for me. Come be our partner.
If you leave, they have no prosecutors. My badge.
What could it be?
I mean, you're not gonna get a strike.
Maybe the game's just gonna end.
Oh no! Bad ending.
Boo! Scientific investigation?
This one has 3 rules in it. needs 20 bucks. Are they? Nani?
Hand him our badge. I guess that's Finn.
I guess, are the credits all gonna be on the tiny screen?
Looks that way.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, just go to Europe. Nobody will care about your prosecutor past there. Hope Harry Butt shows up. Where were these funky jams?
Gotta save something for the end. Oh, good. Meekin's in charge of the evidence room now.
Still sad that he wasn't the killer. Oh. Sage advice. Don't eat it backwards. Good job, Ben Judd. Good localization. All you guys. Good effort with the translation. Well, this judge isn't going to make it to the next game. He's got to retire. Oh, no, no. I'm pretty sure he's going to show up. I think they only have one judge. Maybe that's where Lana will be. She'll become a judge by the next game.
No, this guy's the chief prosecutor.
That might be true. On a train?
It's unclear where this game takes place.
Oh.
What if this had been the photo that, if she switched up her photos when she tried to slip us a photo during the case? I took a picture of the crime scene. Well, that doesn't prove anything.
Oh, it's in my other book. Well, there you go. Bad ending. Phoenix
Maybe?
Wright.
I don't know if that mattered. Edgeworth seemed kind of bummed out for sure.
I don't know what we would have shown him that would have been evidence that we both discovered.
His parking stub.
His knife.
Yeah, man, I don't know what that mattered.
There's only one way to find out.
I'm not playing it again.
What if we hit continue here? Where does it load us? Let's find out.
The start of that day.
Oh,
Yeah.
from chapter start.
Strong pass. I do not have a desire to spend an hour getting back there just to see if there's a slight change in dialogue.
That you might get if you
by
select
giving
the right
him,
thing.
giving him a different item.
You gotta look it up on YouTube, see if you can find Phoenix Wright good ending.
Sure. We talked about our thoughts about the game mostly along the way.
Yeah.
Good music, good presentation, good translation,
Good
character
characters.
building.
Yeah.
But then either the last chapter or probably the chapter before it, it felt like it was really...
Yeah, the last two chapters felt just really slow and awkward, and I think it was just because, like, the logic puzzle part of the game was getting way more complex, but in, like, stupid ways instead of in ways that made sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I think it was more complex. It's just it was more demanding about where you presented your specific information, and the clunkiness of the interface was the problem, where, like, repeatedly we wanted to say, well, the problem is the knife. But you can't say the knife. You try to show the knife, it's like, well, you showed it in the wrong place, and you get penalized.
You actually had to show me the photo of the knife.
You know, things like that
Yeah.
happening more often as the game went on, and the frustration builds up.
By complexity, I mostly meant just times where it was like, what's this piece of evidence? And we're both just like, I don't know what you're asking me for. Like, you're asking for something that's within the logic of the game, but doesn't make sense to me as a person. But yeah, overall, I would recommend this to somebody.
Someone asked me about it last night, and I said, I don't know if I recommend it as a game, knowing that there's an anime that follows the same narrative, probably. Maybe you're better off just watching the anime.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because, like, all of my complaints are the mechanics in the game being not as smooth as I want them to be.
I would be curious to watch some of the anime at least and see if it was the same story or if it was just a similar set of stories. If it was something you could play the game and watch the show, or if it would just be the same experience.
Yeah. Obviously, I want to hold out hope and be like, well, they're going to resolve all those issues in Phoenix Wright too, but they could just as easily make it worse and introduce more mechanics. Because, like, they introduced more mechanics in the bonus chapter in this game.
Oh, and virtually for sure, they add, like, the fingerprint thing and the luminol thing to, I'm sure.
Yeah. Because the first game, remember, was on the Game Boy Advance.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a remaster where they added the DS capabilities. And they added nothing to the game, I would say. Like, blowing on the microphone to spread fingerprints isn't as immersive as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Rotating objects in the 3D space is, I guess, maybe kind of interesting or more interesting than just, like, clicking on a picture of it and checking it, but it's not... It's real limited.
And awkward.
Yeah.
Had the second one come out before the remaster came out? Do you know?
Do you have something else to talk about while I look that up? Like 2 seconds.
Let's see. Who's your favorite character?
The dead girl.
The dead girl? Maya? Mia?
I'm not sure which one she is, yeah.
I think it's Mia.
Originally released in 2002, Game Boy Advance Japan. So the second one, the same story.
Okay. So maybe some of the mechanics are better, but
I think it's going to be
probably
literally
about
the same, where there's probably a bonus chapter. Criticized the lack of Nintendo DS exclusive gameplay mechanics that appeared in the previous game. So no, the second game does not have those things.
Okay. Interesting.
Who knows why?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing, like, where the franchise goes, but at the same time, I'm a little worried that the problems are going to just
multiply,
still be those problems.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed it a lot as it started, and then it just, like, kept going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the problem. Like, I don't want to complain about, like, too much content, because, like, the opposite is so much worse of having a game that you beat in, like, 10 minutes, and you're like, well, that was barely a game.
I think just the first cases were more interesting, and then they slowly became, like, more convoluted and just not particularly compelling as stories.
And I did say at the time that I felt like the narrative structure was skewed, in that the most interesting way to end the game should have been where his partner got murdered and then he was put on trial and had to defend himself. But instead that happened at the very beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just, like, I think the Steel Samurai was the third case. So it's just like this, like, thing that was not nearly as compelling as, you've got to defend yourself in court now.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's just the order of things was mixed up, and I would have been probably more satisfied with it if that was the conclusion of the game.
Sure. All right, any last thoughts?
Good, but could have been better.
Sure.
Like I said, we didn't know what to expect when we got into it.
Yeah.
And we were immediately like, oh, this is kind of, I like this dialogue. I'm really into this. I want to see what happens next. And then somewhere in the middle, I did not care about what was happening next, and I just wanted it to be over. So I don't know where that stands in terms of, like, an overall arc of a review, where I'm just like, it's good, but then it's also not good. So I don't know. I recommend people, like, start playing it, and if it starts to, like, get exhausting, just walk away, because it's not going to get better.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think that it just depends on how, like, compelling you find each chapter.
How tolerant you are of janky mechanics.
Yeah. Well, that's all for Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. There will be a second one someday.